Picture this: today is February 14th, 2026. Happy Valentine's Day. While people out there are busy exchanging chocolates and sweet nothings on the other side of the globe, the Shanghai Futures Exchange just sent a very hard-to-swallow gift to the Western speculators. One-way ticket out of the market, 20 to exactly 22 account groups suspended in just one single week. Let me tell you this story in a way that makes sense over a cup of iced tea. Imagine you own it all. You can eat buffet 20 to guys walk, and they not only eat all the lobster, drink all the beer, but they also try to stuff the prime rib into their pockets and then edit the bills so they do not have to pay. What would you do? Would you give them a polite warning? No way. You would kick them all out to the curb and tape their pictures on the front door with a big ban sign. That is exactly what just happened in Shanghai. Normally they might find 1 or 2 accounts just to set an example, but 22 in 1 week, this is not a technical adjustment. This is a purge. The host is sick and tired of the uninvited guests who just love to crash the party. So I need you to put down that coffee, forget about that box of chocolates. For a second, turn off the television and listen very closely, because the comedy show that is about to end is way better than any movie. Where are you watching this circus from? Hanoi, Dubai, or maybe a corner in California? Leave a comment below so I know we are not alone in this financial theater. So let us peel back the layers of this onion, even if it makes us cry a little bit. Why did the Shanghai Futures Exchange, the bouncer of this Asian nightclub, suddenly decide to throw out 20 to paying customers in a single week? To understand this, we have to talk about how the game is played in the West and why that strategy just hit a brick wall in the East. In New York or London, trading silver is a bit like playing poker with monopoly money. You can bet 1,000,000 ounces, sell 1,000,000 ounces, and buy 1,000,000 ounces all without ever seeing a single speck of actual shiny metal. It is a digital ghost game. The banks use algorithms, fancy little robots, to place massive sell orders in the middle of the night. This scares the living daylights out of the real investors. The price drops, the robots buy it back cheaper, and they pocket the difference. We call this spoofing. It is illegal, sure, like driving over the speed limit is illegal. Everyone does it until they get caught, pay a small fine, and do it again the next day. But here is the plot twist. They tried to bring that New York hustle to Shanghai. They tried to use those same spoofing algorithms to smash the price on the Shanghai exchange. But the Chinese regulators, they do not believe in small fines. They do not believe in a slap on the. They believe in Article 16. That is the rule they use to suspend these 22 account groups. It is basically the get out and stay out rule. Think of it this way. You are at a silent auction. You keep raising your paddle to bid $1 million, and then right before the hammer falls, you scratch your nose and say, "Oh, I was just scratching, not bidding." You do that once. People get annoyed. You do that 20 times. The security guard drags you out by your collar. That is what happened. The West tried to manipulate the East, and the East just cut the cord. But why now? Why are they so sensitive right now? This brings us to the second and arguably much scarier part of our little chat today. Let us look at the fridge. I want you to visualize the warehouse inventory report from Shanghai. This is public data, but it is boring, so nobody reads it except us right now in the Shanghai vaults. There are exactly 353 tons of silver. That sounds like a lot, right? 353 tons. That is a heavy pile of metal. But here is the other number, the open interest. That is the amount of silver that people have bought contracts for and are waiting to potentially take delivery of. That number is roughly 360 tons. Do the math with me. 360 tons claim 353 tons in the vault. In the banking world, we call this a 1-to-1 coverage ratio, but in the real world, we call this living dangerously. Usually in the West, the ratio is something ridiculous. For every ounce of silver in the vault, there might be 300 paper claims. It is a game of musical chairs where there are 300 kids in one chair. Everyone knows the game is rigged, so nobody really expects to get the chair. They just want to dance. But in Shanghai, it is different. The culture is different. When they buy silver, they want the silver. They do not want a check. They do not want a pat on the back. They want the metal. So we have a game of musical chairs where there are 360 kids and 353 chairs. That sounds safe, right? Most kids will get a seat. But what happens if just 7 extra kids decide they want to sit down? Chaos, absolute chaos. There is zero buffer, zero margin for error. If a big player, say a solar panel manufacturer or an electric vehicle battery maker, decides to stand for delivery of just 10 tons, the vault goes negative. The fridge is empty. The restaurant has to tell the customer, "Sorry, we are out of steak. Would you like a salad instead?" And in the financial markets, eating a salad means a default. It means the exchange has to admit they do not have the metal that breaks the trust. And when trust breaks in a currency system, the price does not just go up, it teleports. This is why the premium, the extra cash you have to pay to get real silver in Shanghai, has exploded to $9 over the international price. Think about that. The spot price on your screen says $77. But if you walk into a shop in Shanghai and say, give me an ounce, they charge you $86. That $9 gap, that is the cost of reality. That is the truth tax. It is the market screaming that the paper price is a lie. The Western banks are trying to suppress the price. To hide this shortage, they are trying to paint a picture that silver is abundant and nobody wants it. But the data from the East is painting a completely different masterpiece. It is showing a market that is so tight, so strained that they have to ban 22 traders just to keep the price from exploding prematurely. They are trying to keep the lid on a boiling pot by sitting on it. And we all know what happens to the person who sits on a boiling pot. Eventually they get burned. So we have a purged market. We have an empty warehouse and we have a $9 premium that refuses to go away. But wait, it gets better or worse, depending on whether you rate holding silver or holding dollars, because right now as we speak, the guardians of the vault are about to go on vacation, a long vacation, and they are leaving the door unlocked. Are you ready to see what happens when the cat goes away and the mice come out to play with leverage? So we have a purged market in Shanghai. We have a vault that is running on fumes with a 1-to-1 ratio that would make any risk manager sweat through their expensive suit, and we have a price gap, a premium of $9. That is screaming that physical metal is harder to find than a parking spot in Manhattan. But now let us talk about timing, because in finance, timing is not just everything. It is the only thing. Starting tomorrow, February 15th, the Shanghai Gold Exchange and the Shanghai Futures Exchange are closing their doors. They are going on holiday for 8 long days from the 15th all the way to the 23rd of February. Now you might be thinking, so what, let the traders take a break? Everyone needs a vacation. But here is the thing about markets, they hate vacuums, and when the biggest buyer of physical silver in the world, China, leaves the room for 8 days, it creates a massive vacuum. Think of it like this: you know those nature documentaries where the lions go to sleep and suddenly the hyenas come out to scavenge? That is exactly what happens during these holidays. The lions, the Eastern buyers who stand for delivery and take the physical metal, are asleep. They are offline. They cannot buy the dip. They cannot absorb the selling pressure. So who is left? Awake, the hyenas, the Western bullion banks, the paper traders, the algorithms. In London and New York for the next 8 days, they have free reign to smash the price of paper as low as they want. There is no one there to call their bluff. There is no one there to say, I will take that silver at $20. Thank you very much. Historically, if you look back at the charts during these Chinese holidays, it is almost a tradition. The price gets hammered. It is a manipulator's paradise. They can use thin liquidity to trigger stop losses, flush out the weak hands, and paint a chart that looks terrifying to the average investor. They want you to look at the screen next Tuesday and see red, red, red. They want you to panic. They want you to think the bull market is over. They want you to sell your real metal because their paper price says it is worthless. But here is the secret they do not want you to know. While they are playing games in the paper market, the geopolitical chessboard is shifting underneath their feet. You might have seen a headline recently from Bloomberg. It claimed that Russia is rushing back to the US dollar, that the Kremlin is desperate to use the greenback again. Do not believe the hype. If you actually read the leaked memo, and I mean really read it, not just the headline, it tells a completely different story. It is not a surrender. It is a list of demands. It is like an ex-spouse saying, sure, I will come back to you, but only if you buy me a mansion, apologize on national television, and give me half your income forever. Russia is saying they might consider using the dollar for some bilateral trade, but only after peace in Ukraine, and only after all sanctions are lifted, and only after their frozen assets are returned with interest. That is not a country running back to the dollar. That is a country setting a trap. The reality on the ground is much simpler. Russia and China are currently conducting 90 to 95% of their trade in rubles and yuan, not dollars, not euros. Local currency, the BRICS nations Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, and the new members are now doing 60 to 67% of their internal trade without touching a single US dollar. This is a structural shift. It is a one-way street. You do not build an entire alternative payment system over 3 years just to throw it away because Bloomberg wrote an article. And look at what China is doing with its savings account. They are dumping US treasuries. They are selling American debt at a pace we have not seen since 2008. And what are they buying with that money? Gold and silver. They are trading paper promises for hard assets. They are trading, trust me bro, for weight in hand. This connects back to our $9 premium. Why is silver $9 more expensive in Shanghai? because that is where the metal is going. It is a gravity well. The West suppresses the price. With paper contracts, the East says thank you for the discount and backs up the truck to load the physical metal. It is a massive arbitrage machine. If you can buy silver in London for $77 and sell it in Shanghai for $86, any trader with a brain would do that all day long. But you can't because the metal is scarce, the supply chains are broken, and now for 8 days. The door to the Shanghai vault is locked shut, so we are entering a very dangerous week where the price on your screen might look like a horror movie, but the fundamentals behind the scenes are stronger than ever. The banks are desperate. They only managed to shake out about 1,500 long contracts in the last smash. They only managed to squeeze 2 million ounces out of the SLV ETF. That is peanuts. It is a drop in the bucket. They threw everything they had at the market. Coordinated selling media, propaganda, margin hikes, and the best they could do was a temporary dip that got bought up instantly by the smart money. Now they have 8 days of darkness, 8 days without the Shanghai watchdog, 8 days to try and break the psychological back of the silver market. But here is the question you need to ask yourself. When the lights turn back on in Shanghai on February 24th, when those 20 suspended accounts remain suspended, when the premiums are still double digits, and when the vault is still running on a 1-to-1 ratio, what happens to the price then? What happens when the hyenas realize the lions are waking up? And the lions are hungry, so grab your popcorn. This week is going to be a masterclass in psychological warfare. Now let us step away from the shadowy world of paper contracts and spoofing algorithms for a minute. Let us talk about the stuff you can actually kick. Let us talk about the factories, the assembly lines, and the sweat on the brows of supply chain managers who do not care about the Federal Reserve's dot plot, while the bankers in London are busy selling paper promises that they do not have. The industrial world is quietly screaming fire in a crowded theater. You see, usually when people talk about silver squeezes, they bring up ancient history. They talk about two brothers from Texas in the 1980s trying to corner the market. We are not going to talk about them today. That is a story for history books. That was a financial squeeze. What we are facing right now is an industrial squeeze, and the closest parallel is not 1980, it is the late 1990s, specifically the Ford Palladium event. Back then, Ford Motor Company realized that the metal they needed for catalytic converters, palladium, was running out. They did not speculate. They did not try to get rich. They panicked. They quietly bought up massive stockpiles of physical metal just to keep their assembly lines running. They bought at the top. They bought at the bottom. They just bought because the alternative was shutting down the factory. Fast forward to 2026. Replace catalytic converters with AI chips, electric vehicle batteries, and Tomahawk cruise missiles. You cannot print conductivity. You cannot quantitative ease your way out of physics. Silver is the most conductive metal on the periodic table. If you want your new AI server farm to run without melting down, you need silver. If you want your solar panel to actually generate electricity, you need silver. And here is the kicker that the mainstream news forgets to mention. While they are obsessing over the stock market, the strategic stockpiles are gone. We looked at the Shanghai numbers empty, but look at the comics here in the West. The transcript confirms that registered silver, the stuff that is actually available for delivery, is down to approximately 93 million ounces. 93 million in a world of trillions of dollars of debt. 93 million ounces is a rounding error. It is pocket change. A single major tech company like Apple or Tesla, or a single defense contractor like Raytheon, could wipe that inventory out in a month if they decided to pull a Ford Palladium move. And why wouldn't they? We just talked about geopolitical tension. We talked about Russia and China moving away from the dollar. If you are a defense contractor building guidance systems for missiles, and you see that your supply chain relies on a metal that is currently being drained by the East, do you wait for the price to drop? No, you secure your supply at any cost. This creates a hidden floor under the market that the paper traders cannot see. The paper traders see a chart that says sell. The industrial buyers see a supply chain that says run out. This is why the premium in Shanghai is $9. That is not speculation. That is industry paying up to survive. That $9 is the desperation tax. It is the price of keeping the lights on. So while the banks use this 8-day holiday window to smash the paper price down, watch what happens to the physical inventory. Does it go up? No, it continues to bleed out. Every time they smash the price, they are essentially subsidizing the industrial consumption of the very asset they are shorting. They are making it cheaper for China, for India, and for the military-industrial complex to drain the vaults dry. It is the ultimate paradox. The lower they push the price, the faster the physical metal disappears. We are not watching a casino game anymore. We are watching a game of musical chairs. where the chairs are being burned for firewood one by one and the music is about to stop. So when you see that spot, price ticker flashing red, do not think lost, think clearance sale on strategic assets. Let us go. Back to that all-you-can-eat buffet. One last time, the owner Shanghai has kicked out the 22 cheaters. He has locked the front door for an 8-day holiday. He is sitting inside counting his real silver, knowing he has a dangerously low 1-to-1 ratio in the fridge. Outside on the street, it is absolute chaos. The 20-to-band guys are screaming that the food inside is terrible. They are shouting that the restaurant is worthless. They are trading fake coupons on the sidewalk, driving the street. Price of the buffet down to zero just out of spite. That is what you are going to see on your screen. For the next week, a tantrum, a noisy, desperate tantrum by the people who just got locked out. But here is the reality. The food inside is still delicious, the silver is still conductive, and the demand is still real. Do not listen to the guys screaming on the sidewalk. They are hungry, they are desperate, and they are short. On February 24th, the owner unlocks the door. The 22 cheaters are still banned. The fridge is still empty, and the cover charge, that $9 premium, is not going away. In fact, it might just double. So here is your strategy for the next 8 days. Turn off the ticker, ignore the noise. If the price crashes, treat it like a clearance sale at a store that is about to run out of inventory forever. If the price holds, realize the floor is made of concrete. Do not trade your stake for a paper coupon. Just because someone yells loud enough, don't trust the noise, trust the wait. If you want the full dossier on the 22 suspended accounts, the link is below. Stay safe.